What's up? My name is Eric Butler. This channel is called Report and Opine. I am back, and I want to take a look back at some of the most crooked, corrupt New York politicians that have been working tirelessly to destroy the country's most populated city and arguably the entire state for at least the past 15 years. And of course, this is just the short list. It would take days to discuss every single one of these awful people and all of their weirdo, tyrannical, dystopian schemes and scams, but we'll start right here with Eliot Spitzer. He was the New York Attorney General from 1999 to 2006 and the state's 54th governor from 2007 to 2008 when he was embroiled in a scandal involving a high-end prostitution ring. He was a client of the Emperor's VIP Club, a notorious prostitution service. He resigned in March 2008, and I'm no expert, but it does seem very difficult to completely separate prostitution from human trafficking, but what do I know? And since leaving office, Spitzer has worked as a political commentator and a real estate developer. After Spitzer left office, a man named David Paterson became the governor, and in February 2010, the New York Times reported that Paterson may have been involved in witness tampering during a domestic abuse case involving a staffer in which he allegedly talked to the complainant in an attempt to persuade her to drop the case. The New York Times said that Paterson asked the woman if she needed any help just one day before the case was dropped. Then, at the end of February 2010, he withdrew his bid for a full term as governor, and in March 2010, the New York State Commission on Public Integrity, which I'm sure is not corrupted itself at all, asked the then Attorney General, Andrew Cuomo, to investigate allegations that Paterson had solicited an unlawful gift of free New York Yankees tickets. He also faced allegations that he lied under oath to the commission during an investigation about the tickets. Paterson was not criminally charged in connection with the witness tampering case, but he was fined over $62,000 for lying about the Yankees tickets. It's also perhaps worth noting that he was black and legally blind. Then, of course, we have Andrew Cuomo, the old catcher's mitt himself, the 56th governor of New York from 2011 to 2021. Before he became the governor, he held several positions in the public and private sectors. He served as the U.S. Secretary of Housing and Urban Development from 97 to 01 under Slick Willie Clinton. He also worked as an attorney in a private practice and served as New York State Attorney General from 07 to 2010. However, a string of sexual harassment allegations surfaced in 2021 that had a significant negative impact on his reputation and political career. Multiple women, including several former staffers, accused him of inappropriate behavior, unwanted advances, and creating a hostile work environment. Following an investigation by the New York Attorney General's office, which found Cuomo had, in fact, sexually harassed multiple women, he announced his resignation as governor in August of 2021. And that's not even mentioning his awful Rona policies surrounding nursing homes, ventilators, and a hospital ship, all of which were quite obviously completely incorrect. Andrew Cuomo's resignation paved the way for Kickback Kathy Hochul, and I absolutely love that name. It's almost like Donald Trump came up with that, and she is undoubtedly worse than the nursing home nightmare, Governor Grab-Ass Andrew Cuomo. In August 2022, New York Republicans called on State Attorney General Letitia James to investigate alleged pay-to-play schemes involving Hochul, but we all know how productive it is when Democrats are investigating Democrats. Hochul was accused of awarding lucrative state contracts to campaign donors. At the time, media reported controversial campaign contributions to Hochul, including donations from companies receiving state business, most notably medical answering services, which allegedly donated more than $52,000 to Hochul's campaign while receiving millions in state contracts for Medicaid transportation services. Another instance involved a Rona rapid testing company that received $637 million in no-bid contracts, coinciding with nearly $300,000 in donations to Hochul. But naturally, Hochul, whatever. Naturally, the Attorney General's office said that it would not respond to calls for political investigations, and instead they opted to go after Donald Trump's tax returns. Then there's Brian Benjamin, formerly Hochul's second in command, and in late 2022, a federal judge dismissed 3 bribery and fraud charges against the former lieutenant governor, claiming that there was a lack of evidence to prove a, quote, quid pro quo arrangement with a major campaign donor, which is incredibly convenient. However, the prosecution continued on 2 lesser charges related to falsification of records. The case arose against Benjamin when it was revealed that campaign donations were being made in the names of individuals who claimed they were unaware of the donations. The prosecution alleged that Benjamin arranged for a grant for a Harlem nonprofit in exchange for campaign contributions that would unlock matching funds from the government. The judge said that the prosecution, of course, failed to demonstrate any explicit wrongdoing and dismissed the 3 bribery charges while allowing the 2 related charges of falsification of records to continue. Benjamin resigned from his post as lieutenant governor when the indictment was announced. And are we to believe that Hochul had no knowledge of this and, more importantly, had no schemes or scams of her own going on? Now we have the ever-popular Warren Wilhelm, a.k.a. Bill de Blasio, and his Flavor Flav doppelganger, formerly lesbian I Ain't Gay No More wife, Chirlane McCray. And all the way back in 2019, it was reported that McCray was unable to account for $850 million that had been allocated to the mental health program she was running called Thrive NYC. The program ran for about 3 years and lacked comprehensive records of achievements. It also fell well short of targets based on data available at the time. Then in May 2020, in the summer of love, de Blasio's daughter, Chiara, I'm not quite sure, she was arrested for her involvement in a fentanyl Floyd protest. Also, some images of her nude on the subway surfaced around that time. It was all completely disgusting. But more recently, in June 2023, the Conflict of Interest Board imposed a fine of nearly $500,000 on de Blasio for using taxpayer money to support his failed 2020 presidential campaign and improper deployment of NYPD officers. It is the largest penalty ever imposed by the Conflict of Interest Board. And then there's Eric Black de Blasio Adams, the nightlife mayor who can barely read. And this might be the worst of all these awful things, mostly because I remember the fireworks so vividly. It was an absolute nightmare during the summer of love all the way back in 2020, as the virus has subsided just enough for a race war to begin, and millions of dollars worth of industrial strength fireworks were magically airdropped into New York City. The then Brooklyn Borough President Eric Adams told residents to settle their disputes surrounding fireworks noise with their neighbors instead of calling 911, because at that particular point in time, Adams, who is a former cop, had no choice but to pretend all cops were evil and racist. So a 33-year-old woman named Shatavia Walls unfortunately took the advice of Adams and confronted a group of people setting off illegal fireworks in her neighborhood. They shot her 8 times. In February 2022, shortly after his inauguration, the mayor's brother, Bernard, was giving a high-paying security job, but he later accepted the position as a volunteer following some backlash. He then stepped down from the volunteer position because why would you show up for nothing when he had planned to not show up for a mere $200,000 a year? Then, in February 2023, Adams was fined a whopping $300 after rodents were found at his Brooklyn townhouse. City inspectors discovered that conditions at his rental property encouraged rat nesting, especially in the recyclable storage area. And this happened shortly after he posted a listing for a city rat czar to combat the rodent problem, which obviously they are never going to fix. Then, in May 2023, Adams' transition account team was fined nearly $20,000 by the city's campaign finance board for accepting prohibited donations, failing to respond or responding late to information requests, and not properly winding down transition and inauguration activities. The penalties were then, of course, reduced after his team provided some additional documentation. The fines included $5,000 for accepting prohibited donations, $14,000 for late or non-existent responses to information requests. The account was also fined $200 for failing to wind down activities on time. So, We have to ask, if they are paying fines for things they admit to doing, how many things are they doing that we will never know about? Who knows? Anyhow, once again, this is just the short list. There's plenty more where that came from, going all the way back to Hillary Clinton and Anthony Weiner, more recently Julius Salazar and AOC. So maybe a part 2 will be in order. Please go ahead and name some corrupt politicians in the comments. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and of course, subscribe.